And now bringing you that hard hitting fight analysis, submitting you into paralysis. Josh Thompson head kicking leg to dome, and Big John McCarthy saying let's get it on.
Get rid of that shit. All right. Well, I'm gonna say it this way. Good day, everyone. How are you doing? It is the daytime that we are coming live to you. It's the Weighing In Podcast. My man is back from, let's see, Colorado, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, New Jersey, and he's finally back in his home state of Texas, ready to go a Wahoo golf time.
Yes.
I don't know, man.
No,
How you feeling?
I can't, after all that traveling, I can't afford to go anywhere.
But we do have to say this before we our man podcast Dave, he is a new daddy again, just had a beautiful baby girl. We just saw her, adorable, so she absolutely looks just like Tanya.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, congratulations, my man. Congratulations. That's why we changed it from last night to this night today, because he was bringing the baby home last night, and obviously you got to get settled in.
Yep.
We could not do that to him.
Running through it. Come on. We had to make some adjustments for the man himself. So congratulations, my man. I'm glad that you went with the name you went. Yep. Like I said, a little bit too much testosterone in that house. So I'm glad you got a girl now. You got a girl to kind of mellow you out.
I know. Much needed.
Yeah.
No. You have no idea what can of worms you have opened up at this time.
It's going to be great.
My
great.
God.
I'm excited only because, like today, my daughter decided that she wanted to stick slime with beads in it down the garbage disposal. She is 6 years old, by the way. I thought like when she got done being like 3, 4, all that shit was done. No, not my daughter. No. So literally, as I'm trying to set up, trying to get everything ready for the show, I hadn't had my laptop has got to get all hooked up again. Camera's got to get hooked up. All the cords got to go back into my Rodecaster. And all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, let me just kind of clear out the dishes before I do all that stuff. And I go to turn the garbage disposal on, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Seriously?
If it makes you feel better, I've cleaned mine out twice this year so far, because it's been jammed twice, and it wasn't a baby girl, it was another girl. If that's an indication of anything.
Oh man, you're in for a treat. She might be the mellow one, out of your two boys though. She might be. Because Kellen my son was a trap baby, man. He was so good. He slept through the night, ate all of his food. Like, he was so easy and mellow. And we're like, you know what? We can do this, and we have another one.
I can do this again.
Add another one. Damn. You should have just quit when you're ahead. But my daughter is absolutely amazing. I love it. But you're gonna be blessed, man. It's gonna be fun. The fact that you're outnumbered though now, that's a little scary.
That's all right, man. I was built for fatal 4-way matches.
It makes a huge difference. I'm telling you, man. 2 is easy. Then you bring that third one in, and it's like, what arm? What? Yeah. Where am I going? How many do I have to carry? What is this? Oh my God.
My only concern is when they run opposite directions, like at the park, which one do you chase? That's when you find out which one you love more. It's like, okay, this one's running to the street, but they're going opposite ways. Where do you go? You're like, no.
It's real simple. You go after the slow one. That way you catch them.
Oh, geez. All right. Well, hey, we've got a show. We're going to talk about some Max Holloway conversation. He had some interviews done. Go ahead.
But we do have to, before we start, we got to talk about, there was a man named Jeff Brady who worked with us in Bellator. He was a great guy, did all of the, like the merch and everything. He set up the fighters with their trunks and things like that. We lost him just recently. He ended up drowning after trying to save 2 of his nephews. He did save the 2 nephews, but he didn't make it. And so to everyone out there who knew Jeff, people that didn't, I'm telling you, he was a great guy, just one of the nicest men you could ever meet. And rest in peace, brother. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Jeff was a guy that helped Dan Henderson a lot out. He was kind of one of the guys that helped create Clinch Gear, and then moved on to making like Bellator merch and other promotions merch. They did such a great job. And then he also was brought in to help with PFL stuff. Like he was just a really good dude, man. Really good dude. Him and his brother both. Just a good family.
Twin brother.
Yeah.
Two big Vikings.
They're huge. They were both huge boys, but man, both big hearts.
Yep.
And so, yeah, man, really sad to see him go. But 2 lives were saved because of him, and he can do his thank God.
That's it.
So, Gosh, John, why you got to start the show so
I'm sorry, it had to be done.
heavy downer?
You know, it's one of those, you know, you look and you go, hey, man, I'm so sorry, and I'm sad for, you know, that I'll never see Jeff again and stuff, but God bless him for being a man to step up and do what he was supposed to do and save those two kids. So
yeah, I would agree.
Says who he was.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump right into the Max Holloway had an interview this weekend, and just talking about retirement, talking about like, hey, he's gone. Basically, he doesn't want to go 0-3 and trilogy fights. There's so many different avenues in which we can go into this conversation. But I want to start off because, you know, we're not gonna break down the Max and Poirier fight, but just the conversations that he had about the first two fights, you know, and talking about he's done at 145. He's like, I'm over that shit. So, and that is what we had talked about before when we said he shouldn't have went back down to fight Ilya at 145, and that he should have stayed up at 55, having such a great performance over Justin. All of that kind of leads into where we're going with this, is that it's his next trilogy with Dustin Poirier. Doesn't want to go 0-3 in trilogies. So what's your take on how he can approach this fight differently than how he can approach the other fights?
He's a different. Well, first off, you know, and you got to look and say, as you look at this, you know, when he first fought Dustin the first time, he got caught. I believe it was a Kimura. He got submitted, and you know, he was a young guy, and he got taken down quite often by people. As far as he didn't have great takedown defense and stuff, and so, you know, he's. Over time, you know, he started working on it. It got better and better, and all of a sudden people weren't able to just take him down. And he was able to keep the fight where he wanted it to be. So the first fight, you know, I throw to the side, you know, Dustin was the more experienced fighter. He was the guy that was expected to win that fight, but it was, you know, him coming in. So throw that one away. The championship fight, that's where you've got to look and say, okay, how did the fight break down? Where was the fight mostly, you know, was it on the feet for a lot of it? Was it on the ground? And Dustin was able to, you know, to put the fight where he wanted. Most of the scores were 49-46 on that fight. And so if you're looking at, you know, okay, I'm Max Holloway, I've got to now change this up. Where is it that I need to change it up? And I think the whole thing of where he needs to alter this is, it's, you know what I'm talking about when you have the counter, you counter. And a lot of times Max likes to counter. And then Dustin was smart enough to counter his counters. Mm-hmm. And he was always ending with the last shot. Max has got to turn that around. He's got to be that guy who is, you know, on the feet when you guys are throwing. I'm going to be the one throwing that last combination. I'm going to be the one ending this exchange and making sure that I show the judges I'm the one landing the last shots. He does that, he has a good shot of winning the fight. If he does what happened in the first fight where he's not the one landing that last one, you could get the same result.
Yeah, I guess in the first fight versus the second fight, like I feel like both young, both relatively new to the.
You can't even compare it.
Yeah, they're completely different fighters. Yeah. Even in the second fight, they're completely different fighters from the first fight to the second fight. Yeah. The second fight, he just didn't put the weight on properly. And we saw what Max is capable of when he takes the time, puts the weight on, and goes up to 55, and he had a great performance against Justin. Having the fight that he had with Dustin, he literally just like took the fight. I'm going to do it within 5-6 weeks. I walk around this way. It is not the same. It's funny. I even saw some media people saying like, he's just walking around. He's just fighting at what he normally walks around at.
That's not the same.
That's not how it works.
No, it's not.
You know,
but it's easy number wise. And so that's why they do it. It makes sense to
works. Yeah, you physically need to, like, look, I can carry John Fitch and Koscheck around, sure, for a camp, or not even for a camp, for like, you know, a sparring session, a grappling session, whatever it is. But to do that against somebody that has been carrying that weight for a long time or has been experienced with having that weight in a 3-round fight in the gym is not the same type of pace and pressure that those guys are going to put in their real fights. It just doesn't happen that way. So having to deal with somebody who's used to carrying that weight, like Dustin had already been up at 155 for a little bit. Max had not, and then when he came up, you could see the difference in the power. You can see the difference in the way
that was the big difference.
Yeah, it was. You know, but look, Max didn't have the power that Dustin ever had. Like that, he had the speed, he had the ability to put out combinations. He would, be able to pepper you well enough and land combinations and outpoint you. And if he was able to put you away, he's able to put you away. But he would just pepper you so much and just beat you up. Dustin would put you to sleep. But in that 55-pound fight, he just didn't put the weight on properly. In this fight, it's going to take some time. He has a little bit of time to go back up. But I really think that he was already thinking, as soon as this fight's over, I'm going back up. If he would have beat Ilya, he maybe would have stayed. Yeah. I think that he felt so much better at 55. He probably, and like, even in this interview, he was talking about like, man, I'm over it. I'm done going down. I'm done going to 45. That ship has sailed. I'm over it. And when you do that, it's because, John, you're just thinking to yourself, man, I killed myself to get down here. And then to have the result I just had, and then to have the result I had at 55 versus the result I got at 45. Yeah, sure, I'm fighting for the title, but I just beat the number one guy at 55. And in his mind, he's going, man, I could have fought for the 55-pound title and not killed myself to get here at 45, just to lose. And I guess lastly, I'm going to say is, I really am interested to see how he would perform against Ilya at 155 versus 145.
Well, that might happen again.
Yeah.
It might.
It very well might. And look, with a good performance, if he beats Dustin on his farewell fight, with a very good fight, after beating Justin, I could see that happening. I could see that being like, hey, there's no reason for us not to give you that fight. You went down to 45. You fought Ilya. You lost in the title fight. Come back up. Now you beat Dustin on his walkout fight after you just knocked out Justin in highlight reel fashion, and the way you did it, pointing at the ground, all that stuff. That's huge, man. The UFC they love things like that, and they love Max. So
how can you not?
I think this is one of those opportunities that if he gets a win over Dustin, I think you start to see him make his name in this 155-pound weight class, huge name against, and then that already starts to build up that not animosity, but that nemesis with Ilya Poirier. He's got to lost him at 45. Yeah, but I came down for 55. There's a conversation to be had there. Yeah. And hey, like you beat Justin and Dustin both. I don't see why he wouldn't get the next shot.
It's really a matter of you got to look and say, be honest about it. Sarukian, he's the guy that really deserves that next shot at the title. He made weight for being the alternate and stuff. So I believe he's going to get the next shot. But after that, I could see Max, because what Max right now is ranked 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there.
4th or 5th, I think, something like that.
4th or 5th, yeah.
Max is 1 at featherweight. Are you talking about lightweight?
No. I'm talking about lightweight. Yeah. Okay. They need to pull him. He said, I'm not going back to featherweight. Pull him. Yeah. There's no reason to have his name there. But on the lightweight, 5. What is he?
5.
5. Okay. So you take a look and you go, he's at number 5. I know the best part is Justin Gaethje's ahead of him, and that's where you look and you go, okay, I'm sorry. How do you do that? And it's not like, because I could understand it if in that fight with Justin, which was okay, it's a little while ago, but if that fight had been where Justin was winning the fight and then Max knocked him out, okay, yeah, you have him ranked above him, but he wasn't winning the fight. Yeah. In fact, it was one of the things that made it fucking crazy was that Max was absolutely handling the fight and then still did the last 10-second thing and got the knockout. So you look and you go, okay, Justin's ahead of him. I know they got, I believe, Charles Oliveira. Mm-hmm. That's, okay. And then Sarukian's there. I think they still have Islam as number 1, which is like, he's at 170 now. Get rid of his name on the lightweights. He's not there, but
yeah, I don't know about him if he would possibly come down. I doubt he would. I think he's going to stay at 70.
As he should.
That's my thought process, is like, if you're going to put the weight on properly, I've been watching videos of him working out, lifting weights, getting his body up.
It's also a 15-pound difference compared to a 10-pound. And look at the extra 5 pounds. That's a lot. And, it may seem like nothing, but it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly believe, he's always had to keep his weight around 88 to 90 to make 55. I think you're going to see him closer to 96, 94 to 96 now. That extra 5 pounds is going to mean a lot, and the physical strength. I saw that JDM went off and was like, he's too small for the weight class. His frame's not big enough.
No, he's wrong about that.
It's...
No.
Yeah.
Look, if there's one thing, Islam is not a small human being.
He's not, but
Okay.
you know, he's got to take the time. And I think that the fact that they're talking about Madison Square Garden in November, that gives him the time to put his weight on properly. I could see him building that muscle within a 2 month or 3 month period, and then being able to dial it back a little bit to get ready to make the weight. So, you know, you don't want to get too big. You want to be able to train with it. You want to be able to, you know, make sure you can oxygenate all that muscle that you put on. And
well, he's not going to put on. See, he's not going to put on that much, Josh. He's going to keep, because every time he did that massive cut, you're losing muscle mass. You're some of that's going away, and so this time he's going to be able to keep what he has, you know, been able to accomplish in the gym and to, you know, cultivate. And now it's not going to just be that he's getting rid of it because of this giant crash. Now he's going to be able to keep a lot of it. I think he's going to feel so much better.
Yeah, but it's all about how much can he put on a little, you know, put on 5 pounds, 4 pounds, but how much can he keep of that without having to cut that off? It really comes down to, like you're talking, like when JDM said, oh, he's not big enough, his train's not big enough. Yeah, but if he can put the muscle on properly and then lose the weight down without losing too much of the muscle, that's the thing. He's got to put the right amount of muscle on. And if when he starts to cut weight, only lose a fraction of it compared to where before he just walked around what he normally walks around at 88, and he would always lose a little bit of the muscle and had to actually put it back on because he was cutting so much weight from there. So if he gets up to like 92, 94, somewhere in there, and he cuts down to 70, that fraction of weight that he's going to have to try to keep, that extra strength of muscle, that extra little bit of energy, like all of those things make a huge difference when you're trying to perform at a high level.
True, it does, but you know, you take a look and I don't know. I would say Islam is easily 6 foot. Okay. Yeah. They may have him at 5'11" or something, but he's easily 6 foot. Okay. And you take a look at, you know, Jack he's 5'11". So you're gonna sit there and say that, you know, your frame's bigger, you know, as far as reach and everything, you know, 70. I mean, Jack's reach is 73. I believe Islam's is 74, 75. Don't tell me he's too small. Okay. Yeah. Bullshit. All right.
My thing is, I really want to see his energy level and where he goes in rounds 4 and 5 in comparison to when he was cutting to 45 or 55.
I think it's going to be a big difference. I think he's going to feel so much better.
Yeah. We kind of got a little bit off topic there, but you know, with Max, he was talking also too about his retirement, John. And his retirement is he said, look, he's got 3 more fights, I believe is what he said. You know, he obviously said that he wants to fight, you know, even longer. He's like, I'll fight. He's like, but he looked at his wife and he's like, hey, kind of whenever she says. But what I liked what he said was, when I can't compete with the top guys, I'll call it a career.
Yeah.
The jump up to 55, his style, there's good wrestlers in there. You got Gamrot, you've got Sarukian, you've got guys that can really wrestle. But then you got guys that I look at and I go, damn, those fights against a Dan Hooker.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like you put Dan Hooker in him, and you put, you know, obviously like Justin, they've already fought. Dustin, they're about to fight again for the 3rd time. But there's guys in there for him to fight that, to me, I'm kind of chomping at the bit going, man, that's a great fight. I'd like to see, you know, you've got him. The Dan Hooker one is the one that really gets me. But someone even like also in the mix up after seeing his performance was somebody like a Dariush or a Fiziev. You know, how does he handle Dariush's scrambling and his ability to mix it up, and then Fiziev, his kicks?
Fiziev would be the interesting one if you're asking me, because I mean, Fiziev is special when it comes to the stand up, and so is Max, and so that would be a great matchup, and I think they would match up, you know, very well. And it's one of those, how well does Fiziev's leg kicks, because he likes to attack the leg, and Max is heavy on his front leg a lot, and so there's all kinds of little things you can look at and say, wow, who would be the good matchup? If I was going to pick the guy that I think would bring out the best overall fight with Max, it'd be Dan Hooker. Because Dan Hooker, he's a crazy animal who just keeps coming forward and throwing. His fight with Poirier is still one of the best damn fights. If you look at what was going on in that, it was just crazy. It's just too bad it wasn't in front of a crowd, because they would have been going nuts.
Is he the modern day Cowboy Cerrone?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Fights all the time, fights as much as he can. And, you know, just the win or loss, he's always still kind of always in the mix.
Yeah. It's funny because you say that and stuff. And here's the real difference. Dan Hooker, he wants to fight. He wants to fight everybody. He wants to fight, now I want to fight next week. I want to fight next month. I want to fight, until he gets hurt. And then he's smart enough to, hey, I got to heal up, and Cowboy's the same thing on the mic. But then when he's in the back, he's like, why do I do this shit? What am I doing? I don't know. And then he goes out and he fights great. It's just, it's all a mental game that he plays. But yeah, they're very similar. And I think, that's what makes people really like Dan Hooker.
Yeah, I agree. I love his energy. I love the way when he's in there, he's talking to the fighters. He also wants to bring it. His interviews are great. I love his little beef he's got going on right now with Sarukian. I think it's fun. He's like, you're the number one contender that no one ever talks about. So it was just fun to see. Like he's quick to bounce back. Oh, he's quick to respond back and let people know, like, I don't care where I'm at in the rankings. I'll fight you tomorrow. Oh, yeah. And those are the type of fighters right now that when I was doing Frankie Edgar's podcast last weekend that we talked about, that you need the entertainer, sure, but you need the guys that also too want to fight. They want to bring the action. They don't just talk about it, but they are trying to be about it. And that's exactly what Dan Hooker is. Max has always been that way his whole career. Now everyone loves Max because he's got a big heart. He's very kind to people, but he comes out and he tries to put you away. And that's exactly what he like. I love watching Max fight because of that. I agree the Dan Hooker fight is definitely the one, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. If he beats Dustin Poirier, it automatically puts him right into that contention of saying, hey, we know that it's supposed to be Arman Sarukian, but I'm also hearing right now, just on my side, maybe you haven't heard it yet, that Justin's already kind of in the works of making that fight happen. So Justin, if he ends up leapfrogging Arman, where does that put Max? If Max beats Dustin, where does that put Max?
I'll tell you what, I hate to say, when I look at it, but if Max gets the win over Poirier, tell me that Patty Pimblett wouldn't be a good fight with him.
With Max?
Yeah. It would be a great fight. Look at Pimblett's big.
Yeah.
But he likes to stand up and strike. He'll take you down, but I don't think that he actually has the takedown, game that is going to give Max a ton of trouble, but he could get it there, and he definitely has got power in his hands. So I don't know. I think that would be a fun fight too. But you take a look at the entire weight class. There's a shakeup, and it's good. The shakeup now is with the new champion. The shakeup with you have a lot of these featherweights coming up in to that weight class, and it opens things up. Obviously, what we're talking about with Poirier and Holloway has happened before, but this is a great trilogy fight because both guys are legends.
Yeah.
You just look at them. These are guys that have gone out there and done it against the very best and been, in the top for how long?
Yeah, no, I agree. Dave, what other topics were on that interview that he had? I mean, he talked about his retirement. He said he doesn't want to fight unless he's fighting the best guys, which I understand. Like when you realize you're not fighting for the title anymore, like you're really just fighting for money. And then it also, when you've fought at the highest level for so long, it takes the fun out of it. Like if I can't fight with the best and compete with the best, it takes the fun out of that. So what's another thing he was talking about?
Yeah, the other thing was just that he's not going back to 45, which you touched on.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Like smart. He, after realizing that he didn't have to kill himself and still have a great performance. And Justin, at the time that he beat him, was the number one guy.
Yeah,
he was the number one ranked guy in the lightweight division. That wasn't the champion. So if that's the case, then why would I not just stay at 55? Not having to kill yourself means so much. And I can perform at that level. I put the weight on properly. I can actually have a meal after I train, the 2 weeks before the fight. That's huge.
But let me ask you this on that situation, Josh. So let's play it out. He goes into the Dustin trilogy, wins the trilogy, right? He's a BMF title holder. And then can he go? I mean, he's number one at 45 right now. So can he go back down and try to get that quadrilogy fight against Volk and try to
quadrilogy,
whatever you call it?
Yeah. I like that though. We're gonna start running with that.
The quadrilogy.
That's a fourth one.
That's a t-shirt.
Quadrilogy.
That's a t-shirt right there.
I want to see the quadrilogy.
Yep.
So and that way he's title opportunity, chance at redemption against Volk, coming off the hype of winning the trilogy against that. Like there's so much behind if he did win this fight to go back into the fourth Volk fight. Like, do you agree with that or disagree with that?
I disagree only because there's so much ahead of it to fight Ilia Topuria at 155. Like that's the thing. If you put the weight on properly, you get a win over Dustin. Nothing is blocking you between Ilya and you. You've already got beef there. I would write off 45. Just be done. Okay. And the proof is in the pudding. You had a great performance with great energy at the end of a 4 or 5 round fight when you fought Justin Gaethje. Now, you're fighting a guy that will stand with you the whole time. He doesn't have to worry about you. He may try to take you down, but Ilya Topuria will stand with you. He's already been able to finish you on the feet. He wants to prove he can do it again. He may mix in some wrestling if it goes past, rounds 2, 3, or 4, whatever it is. But I think that the story writes itself. He beats Dustin. Now there's nothing really in between him and the title shot. Maybe one more fight in there, but like you said, maybe a Paddy Pimblett fight.
Yep.
Maybe. I don't think that they would give him Arman Tsarukyan because Arman's that number 1 guy, I think, right now. But why ruin your 2 number 1 contenders to fight somebody like Ilya?
Yeah, Arman. You got Arman that's going to fight Ilya somewhere along the way here next, I believe. And you have Justin sitting there possibly as someone that could get that shot. But you also have, they pulled the whole Paddy Pimblett thing and then Dana got mad. But I mean, it's a perfect thing of stepping stones. And you're taking a look and saying, well, is Paddy ready? Well, let's put him against Max. Let's see. Maybe he's not. Maybe he is. But John, that would be a great fight.
John, I'll bounce it off you then because you've said that Max beat Volk in the second fight. That's one of the most viewed videos on our channel.
Yeah. So
for you, like, do you look at that and say he can beat Volkanovski according to you? So is there more to gain from going back down to 45 and getting that one back?
How many views did that video get?
500,000 right now, maybe
500,000 views, huh? That's electric right there, John. Time for you to back up your words, buddy.
Look, if you go back to that fight, and this is where I have the problem with it is, look, I had Max winning the fight, but it was a close fight. And people sit there and say robbery. You're going to say robbery if your guy didn't win. Okay, Max put on a beautiful performance, and he won the first 2 rounds. If you go back and you watch that, there was no doubt he won the first 2 rounds of that. And I believe he won, I'd have to check, but I believe he won them on all of the judges' scorecards. And then Volkanovski, and he won them this is where, Josh is always talking about the half-point system. This is the kind of fight that really makes a difference with that system because he clearly wins those rounds. And then Volkanovski comes back and he's just getting by and he's winning the round, but not by much. Then it comes down to the last round, the 5th round. And I believe 2 of the judges gave it to Volkanovski and 1 gave it to Max. And I thought it was Max's round. But you can look at, even the media, which I'm not saying they know how to score fight, but I mean, it was 2-1 for Max. Okay. If you looked and you had, 30 fucking media people, you had 20 going with Max, 10 going with Volkanovski. So again, it wasn't, I'm not going to say it's a robbery, but it was one of those ones you could look at and you go, Max really, he fought better that night than Volkanovski, especially overall, because of the way he won the rounds compared to the way that Volkanovski won the rounds. But I agree with Josh. Once you've made this choice now in the fact that, yeah, you could get another chance at Volkanovski, but why, if you've made up your mind that the weight is a problem for you in the fight, stay with 155. You can compete with anybody in 145 and you can compete with anybody in 155. But if you can compete and feel better during that competition at 55 over 45, well, there's your answer. And I think he did. I think exactly what Josh is saying. He's proved it. The proof is in the pudding. His performance against the number 1 guy in, the 155 class, the guy who beat Dustin Poirier to become the BMF champion, that's the guy he handled. It wasn't close. This wasn't going to be a 40, if you went to the scorecards on that fight, you'd be lucky if you got a 49-46.
Yeah.
Okay. It was 50-45 across the board on most people's cards. He clearly won that every round of that fight. And he was comfortably doing it. And against a guy that, we both look at as, dude, that dude's a stud. Justin Gaethje is the human highlight reel for a reason. And he just had no answers for what was occurring that night. And then, the knockout just solidified that performance. One of the greatest performances ever. you know, and you had that at 155. Why are you going to go back now to 145 after you tried and you had Topuria? But Topuria is up at your weight class now. He's up at 155. You want to get a rematch at that? I understand that. That's where you should be looking. That's where you should be putting all your attention to. Get the rematch, get another shot at Topuria, and try to take his title at lightweight instead of featherweight.
I guess ultimately, Dave, to answer your question, is that the peace of mind you get from being able to come home every day after training and be like, I can actually eat a full meal, or I can drink, you know, I can have a full protein shake mixed in with some berries and stuff. Like, there's a lot there. And then when you don't get to eat what you need, you can just feel your body just draining at the next training session. And you feel your body throughout the house, your energy level with your family. He's got a wife and kid, you know, like
that's your whole life.
It starts to affect your mental ability around the house and how you handle your home. And I think he's done with that, you know, and the fact that he looked at her right before he answered that question and said, you know, it's kind of up to her, but, you know, I'd like to fight as long as I can. But I like how he put the little caveat in there that, like, when I can't compete with the best guys at the top, I'll call it a career. Because that's all he's ever done. All he's ever done. If you take a look at his resume, him and Dustin Poirier have, I think, the two best resumes in the sport, period. Across the board, across everybody. Him and Dustin Poirier, I think, are the two best resumes. When I look at it, I'm like, damn, this is who we fought.
Come on. Take a look at that right there, because I'm looking at what, you know, Dave just put up there. Okay, fought Ilia Topuria, has a loss. Okay, but Justin Gaethje with the win. The Korean Zombie with a win. Arnold Allen with a win. He loses to Volkanovski on a decision. Okay, Yair Rodriguez win. Calvin Kattar win. He's got, again, Volkanovski with the two losses there. Frankie Edgar with a win. Poirier lost the championship match to him. Okay, Brian Ortega. Jose Aldo, Anthony Pettis. I mean, it's freaking crazy.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
Yeah, just nuts.
You know, guys that came down from 55 thinking they could bull the 45 pounders around. You know,
Jeremy Stevens.
These are all guys that can crack, man. Look at the success that Jeremy Stevens having, you know, in BKFC, and then look at him when he came back. He still didn't look. I feel like I don't know why he's not back in the UFC fully again. Like, he had a great performance.
He even knocked out Clay Collard. How about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, you take a look at the guys that Max has fought. I mean, obviously, I don't even have to say this, but he's the first ballot Hall of Famer. I think if he wanted to say I'm retired now, I mean, he would go right in probably within the next, you know, couple months.
Next year.
You know? Yeah, next year. I mean, they would just take him in. There'd be no reason not to. You know, the guy's phenomenal. Like I said, first ballot Hall of Famer. All of the things about him is that now you can see his mind in that interview. Dave is starting to shift. It's starting to shift towards, what am I going to do for my family? I've got to make sure that my family's taken care of. And he's done all that. He's financially should be pretty good. But I'm saying, like, he's more focused on what am I going to have left to give them when I'm done? Because we are a shadow of what we were when we were fighting. When we were done fighting, we were reinventing ourselves. I'm still trying to do it 5-6 years later. I'm still trying to, you know, reinvent myself into trying to figure out what I really truly want to do and love as much as I loved fighting. It's very difficult. And so it's hard to walk away from everything that's taken. It was a schedule. I had this conversation with Rich Chow yesterday and Bobby Lashley, is that you do something for so long, you don't really know what else to do. You don't know how to schedule your life, because everything was on a schedule. Monday I sparred, then I grappled, and then Tuesday I wrestled, and then Wednesday I sparred, and then I grappled. Thursday I wrestled, and then, you know what I mean, like Friday sparred, and then Saturday hit mitts, and then ran at the track. Like, you had a schedule for 22 years. It was the same schedule, a couple little tweaks here and there. But that life now is gone. Like, what do you do to fill that void? And how do you mentally prepare yourself to be not as active? That's the hard part. It's like, I actually go stir crazy around my house. I mean, the energy in my house is because my son's got so many activities. I love just going to watch him play and practice. Like that, those are my activities now. Like, your life changes. And so with Max, you could see the emotion on his face. Like, fuck, I want to do this as long as I can. But I got to look. He looked at his wife, and you saw that emotion. Like, however long she's okay with it.
But it's got to be pointed out. It is not easy to be the significant other of any fighter. All right, there's so much as far as you give up things, and it's not only that, you're watching them get hurt, you're watching them get damaged. That is not an easy thing to take.
Yeah,
and you can only do that so many times before you say enough. because every time they get hurt, you're getting hurt. You know,
Yeah.
every time you see them go down or the loss, and you see them in the back. See, people don't see the fighter in the back, and they don't see, you know, the breakdowns and everything that occurs, because, you know, every fighter goes into the fight with, I'm going to win.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the things that I love about, you know, you look at your fighters with the UFC, and you've got the pay schedule of, you got show money and win money. And you ask any fighter, you know, hey, you, especially the new ones, how much you getting paid for this one? Dude, $80,000. Okay, they're getting 40 and 40.
Mhm.
Okay, but they've already mentally spent 80. It's just the way it is. And so it's tough.
To touch on what you said though, is that it's the wife, it's the girlfriend, it's the kids that are picking up the pieces.
Yeah.
And so fans don't see that. They don't see what goes on afterwards. Like when that, you know, John Fitch, after he lost to George St. Pierre, in his video, he took his phone camera, and he videoed himself just emotionally broken. And he made it public when he put out that New Heights video or whatever, documentary on his way to the title, all that stuff. Great little bit. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. But it's on DVD. I think it might even be on YouTube, but it's called New Heights. It's basically him chasing his dream to fight for the world heavyweight title. And at the end, it shows him just beat up, banged up, and just in the corner by himself. You know, his family and everything, you know, his wife was there and his family's all there. But it was literally very emotional to watch my friend break down. And, you know, who's there? It's like, you know, his wife's there to pick up the pieces, his brothers and his family there being pick up the pieces, us, his friends being there to help pick up the pieces. It's difficult. And so when I saw Max look at his wife and go like, it's however long she, you know, she's okay with, like that's huge. He understands that he's just not in it for himself. So that's a big deal. Dave, is there anything else? Oh, you're muted, buddy.
That was the best you ever sounded.
Sorry about that. Not unless there's anything else you got in the Max, but we can move on.
I think the one thing that needs to be said in this whole thing, though, you know, Josh, when you look at it, and I think, you know, Max was saying, look, I'm not laying down for Dustin. I appreciate the fact that this is his, you know, going away fight, and that they're basically putting this. They've said they're putting the show on in frickin' Louisiana for Dustin Poirier, since that's where he's a native from. And yeah, I'm his opponent. But anybody that thinks that Max Holloway is not going to go in there trying to take Dustin Poirier's head off has lost their mind. Okay, and I've heard it. You know, he's already beat him twice. You know, no. You cannot sit there and look. There's times when I'll sit there and say, look, it's going to be very difficult for fighter A to beat fighter B ever. It's just stylistically the way that what they do. One doesn't match up well with the other. The other's real strong, where the one usually gets away with getting things done, and they can't do it the same way. And so this one, again, you know, I think Dustin is the heavier striker overall, you know, punch for punch, power for power. But if Max Holloway goes in there saying, I'm going to light you up with volume that you cannot overcome, look, Max Holloway can walk away the winner of this fight. And I think he's going to try.
Yeah. Without getting too much into the fight, because we're going to break that fight down next week. But ultimately, it comes down to, are we going to see Dustin come out having too much fun? Or are we going to see Max come out and just relax? Like, I'm not going to let you walk away from the sport without taking an L from me. You know, that's really what it comes down to. Is Dustin going to be the guy that says, I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I'm going to have a ton of fun out here. Doesn't matter what happens because it's my going away fight. That could end up costing him the fight. But
could also the pressure.
Yeah.
And when I say pressure, the pressure of emotions, the pressure of knowing this is my last time. Some guys take it and they're free because of it. Some guys, because it's the last time, everything just starts to pile in on them. So
possibly. Yeah, I guess that's why we fight the fight, right?
That's
See
it.
exactly where it goes. What else you got for us, Dave? Let's talk about, before we move on though, make sure you guys subscribe to us over at OnlyFans. We are live on OnlyFans right now. If you guys have questions on OnlyFans, you guys are watching us from OnlyFans, throw your questions up and we'll try to get to them as best we can as we go. If you guys are in the super chat area, you guys members come up first. We have a $4.99 membership on our YouTube channel, as well as a $1.99 membership, $1.99. Hit us up. I saw we got some new members, or actually renewed members, I should say. And I'm looking forward to having some more conversations with you guys. I know we do a giveaway once a month. We're coming up on that month now to give another giveaway. We did 2 giveaways last month, actually 3. I sent out 3 packages and some signed merch also. And we'll be doing that again this month. to all members only. So make sure you guys sign up for our memberships at $4.99 and $1.99. The $1.99 gets your guys' questions answered first, obviously, in our super chats. We go live every Tuesday night at 9:30. And John and I have been kind of playing around. It may not be this month, only based on the fact that he's traveling, and I just got back from traveling. But I think once the kids get back in school and we start hitting our stride again, I'm back onto a normal routine. Not your kids, my kids, John.
Yeah, my kids are out of school.
Yeah.
My kids are almost retired.
They're almost done with school. But yeah, we'll be looking forward to doing more lives. I actually like the idea of doing lives either directly after a pay-per-view or maybe that Sunday night after a pay-per-view, because we had a great after the last pay-per-view with Poirier and Charles Oliveira, we had a great pay-per-view our live show on that Sunday night. And I think we may end up trying to do that as more often as possible. So make sure you guys subscribe to us. Share our content all around. If you guys want to share our content, we give you guys approval to go ahead and share our content across your guys' social media platforms. We love you guys. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support us. And Dave, go ahead. Let's talk about this fight card, man. Or let's do something else.
Yeah, no, this weekend we have Derek Lewis versus Talison Teixeira.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a Nashville fight. I was expecting a better card, to be honest, but this is how they treat Tennessee. Is this what they do?
That's just wrong.
I think there's a couple really good fights on here. The fight, I wouldn't say, I think name value wise, like you've got Derek Lewis versus Talison Teixeira. It should be a good fight. Someone's going to sleep. I don't think this fight gets outside of the second round. What do you think?
I believe the same thing. This may go into the second round. It's not going to see the third round.
No.
Look, Derek Lewis is very smart in the way he fights, and I'm being honest when I take a look at all of the experience that Derek Lewis has. He knows he can fight. And one of the things that a lot of heavyweights don't, when they're looking and they don't have that specific skill set that can deal with Derek in a way that causes them problems, they end up burning energy because he is explosive. When we talk about a fast big man, Derek Lewis is a fast big man. He just can't do it very often. Okay, because he burns out, but he has got explosive, power. He's got explosive movement, and he can get after you. And so Teixeira's, is good, but he hasn't had a ton of experience dealing with someone like Derek Lewis. And I've told you too many times, in the cage, I can tell you all, Derek Lewis, when he gets on top of someone, it's over. It is absolutely over. He does not end up having a fight go back to a next round when he's in the top position. Many times when he's in the bottom position.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it there. But, man, when he's on top of you, look out. And so Teixeira has to make sure that he does not in any fashion end up underneath Derek Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, Derek he's got big power in his hands. We know that. I want to know, is his hands the biggest in the UFC ever? Or was that Brock? Because Brock had they said a 7X.
I think Shane Carwin's were the biggest hands.
Oh,
as I recall, Brock's were big. Brock's was a 3XL.
Okay.
But Shane Carwin he's got really big, thick hands.
I thought I had heard like a 5X or a 7X.
Yeah. See, when you get into those and stuff, because the gloves don't really change from the 2X to the 3X and 4X. Just depends on what you want, but I think Shane Carwin actually had the biggest hands that I can think.
What do you mean they don't change? That's why you have a different number, John.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is, when you're taking a look, you'll get guys. Tito had a big hand. Okay, he had a big hand.
That's strange because he had no power.
Excuse me, it's true. Yeah, it is. It's one of those things when you look and you go, that just didn't correlate. But Tito has really big hands.
I got pussy hands. Like, they're so small, bro.
Little tiny things. I know.
Yeah, they're horrible.
But Tito would wear a medium. He would stuff his hand into the smallest glove he could.
Interesting.
And he liked to do that. Now I know guys, I couldn't do it. It'd drive me crazy, and my hand would feel like it's getting squeezed, and I don't like it. But that's the way he was. And so to sit there and say he looked at it like, if the smaller the glove that I wear, the easier it is for me to pull my hand out in situations.
Wrestling.
It's not as big of a blocking pad as the bigger, sizes. And so a lot of them, it comes that you'll get guys that go, I want to hit hard and I'm going to wear a bigger glove based upon that's what it's more weight.
Yeah.
And it's not a lot more weight, but it's more weight.
Yeah, I understand. Like for me, I went through this like mental thing at the end of my career. Like I always wore the smallest glove. I was always wearing like a medium.
Okay.
And then towards the end of my career, I was like, let me try a large. And then I started feeling a little bit more free in the large.
Exactly.
But then towards the end of my career, I actually wrestled a little bit less. And so that was, so then you had the position of like, okay, well, there's less wrestling. So I use the smaller gloves for more grappling, more wrestling. I felt like I could pull it out of, like you said, like out of grips and stuff a lot easier. I felt like my glove fit through people's, like when they put their guard up, it fit through easier to land shots. So, especially we never had to worry about that in Strikeforce because we used the Fairtex gloves. Those were my favorite gloves. Now I know a lot of people had broken hands because of them, but I never hit hard, so I didn't have to worry about that.
There you go.
And so, but I love.
There's a benefit. You got to look. There's always a benefit.
They were so great. I love them. They were.
Those were really contoured as far as they didn't have that big blocking pad on the back of the hand, and so it was much easier to work in a grappling situation with the Fairtex glove than it ever was with the UFC's glove.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, I mean, like it was, I felt like they just got through so much easier everything.
Because it didn't have that big pad.
Yeah, nothing got in the way. It was so nice. It was so nice. It created so much more damage.
But they also, you were getting hit by that same glove.
I tried not to get hit a lot. Yeah. What else you got for us? I mean, sorry. The co-main event, Stephen Thompson versus Gabriel Bonfim.
Yeah, this is one, I hate to look at it, but they're looking at, possibly putting a nice name on the resume of Gabriel Bonfim. And nothing against Stephen Thompson. I love him. He's a wonderful human being. He's been an incredible fighter, but he's slowing down. He's older now, and his ability, to do the same things as he did in the past have slowed down a little bit. So I kind of look at the UFC using him now kind of as that gatekeeper. Let me put, you against a guy that we look at as he's coming up. He could be next. He gets a win against you. That looks good. I'll be, honest. The one that's below that, Calvin Kattar versus Stevie Garcia. Damn, that's a good fight. Stevie Garcia is a tough sumbitch. And Calvin Kattar is that guy who's trying to hold on right now to that position of where he's at and stuff. Great in the stand-up. Tough as far as, his ground game as far as getting taken down, but Stevie Garcia can do it all. And so that's another tough one right there.
Yeah, see, I'm going to go back up to the Stephen Thompson, Gabriel Bonfim fight. I'm going to go with Stephen Thompson. Okay. I think his style is going to keep the distance. I think it's going to throw Bonfim off a little bit, and I think being Bonfim not having ever fought somebody like a Stephen Thompson, it was very much remember how the Kevin Holloway
who has only someone that fought him.
Yeah, so when you get in there, you're like, oh, I'm gonna just walk through this old man. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And Kevin Holland found out the hard way. I'm not just gonna walk right in and get it done. I thought Kevin Holland would be the faster fighter. I remember saying that on their show.
Yeah,
sure enough, I was freaking wrong because in the corner, Kevin Holland goes, he's fast. And it's like, he was 40 years old at that time, or 39 years old. He's already fast. So that's something that I know he is slowing down. There's no doubt about that. You can see it in the way that he moves. You can see it in the way his combinations come out. Gabriel Bonfim, though, I think he's going to have a hard time because Gabriel Bonfim's not as big as Steven. Steven's long and rangy, and he fights long and rangy. Having to learn to get past that without getting caught, it's very tough. Calvin Kattar needs to have an explosive night. He needs to make sure that he's doing something, putting pressure, landing big shots. It's going to be very difficult, though, because Stephen Gracie is very, very tough.
Stephen Garcia.
Stephen Garcia, sorry. Did I say Gracie?
Yeah, you did.
So, but look, Calvin Kattar, man, like I love watching him fight. He's the guy that, we've had a lot of conversations on this podcast about his talent, his abilities. He just hasn't been able to get there. I mean, remember when he fought the Magomed Sharapov? It was Zabit. Yeah, sorry. But when he fought Zabit, like it was just a great fight. But he started coming on towards the end.
Yeah, he was winning at the end.
Yeah, so that there's that ability there. And he just, after that, he had some good fights and then had some struggles, had some good fights and had some struggles. So I don't know if he's got enough left in the gas tank to make another run, at the title, but I think this is going to be one of those fights that kind of either can resurge his career or it can set him back quite a bit.
True. Yeah. Vitor Perino coming from light heavyweight up to heavyweight. That'll be interesting to see how he carries himself, how that changes. He's going up against Austin Lane. That's a good opponent for him in there.
Yeah, this the same, but the other way around though, John, is Junior Tafa is fighting at light heavyweight now and not heavyweight.
I know.
So now you have the reverse with George Tokos. So that's going to be a good fight. And look, did you see the pictures of Tafa? Dave, can you try to pull up a picture of Tafa? He looks phenomenal.
He looks good, man. Obviously, he has not been having the barbecues. He's been stepping away from the barbecue. God bless him.
He looks absolutely amazing for somebody who is yes, look at that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey.
That you can see, I can see 2, maybe 4.
Dude, there's 4 there. There's 4.
John, he'll round that up to 4.
Dude, I'll give him 6.
Yeah. That's his belly button, John. That's not another app. But yeah, I think he looks phenomenal. He's definitely slendered down. I'm hoping to see him have a great performance. This is a good fight for him against Tokos. I think he's got a good chance of getting a win.
Yep.
Good chance. This is a great fight. Max Griffin versus Chris Curtis.
It is a good fight. Max Griffin is a tough son bitch, and we know that Chris Curtis, the action man, he's going to come to knock your block off. So this is one of those, does Max Griffin really try to take the fight to the ground? Because he does that, on certain fights when he feels like he has an advantage there. Or is he going to say, no, I'm going to stand with you the whole time, and we're going to see who's the tougher guy. This is one of those, because Chris Curtis doesn't try to take anything to the ground.
No.
He's right along the lines of his, sparring partners with Sean Strickland and stuff. I'm just gonna come in and box you and knock you out. So
go ahead, Dave.
Is Chris coming down, or is he always 170?
No, he is coming down, right? He's 185. Yeah, he is coming down to welterweight. Yeah, that's right. They've got a lot of changes in weights here.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Interesting. Chris, look, I think with Max, what he's got to do is he's got to threaten the takedown to see how difficult it is. If I got to work really hard to do it, let's just stand and trade. If I'm able to sneak 1 or 2 in there and steal some of that round, 2 minutes of the round, or a minute and a half of the round, or 3 minutes of the round, I'm going to go ahead and try and wrestle a little bit more. Because if I can get that one takedown that wins me that round, and then the rest of the fight, I can try to slug it out with you, I like my chances. Chris is one of those guys that he's a dog, so as the fight goes on later on, he'll have a little bit more success pushing the pace, being relaxed. He's real good at shoulder rolling. He's really good at countering off the shoulder roll, and he's good at not taking clean, hard shots, Chris is. Yeah. So I think as this fight develops, Max is going to have to threaten the takedown a little bit to try to freeze Chris a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm wondering how the cut affects Chris, though, because Chris carries a lot of muscle.
Yeah, he does.
And so he's going to he had to fucking, cut down and take care of a lot of that. 15 pounds is a big difference. And, because he competed against really good people in the middleweight division, guys like Brendan Allen. And, I think he lost that in a split decision. But you take a look, man, he can fight. Chris can absolutely fight.
John, when I'm looking at this, right, you got Jake Matthews and Chidian Chikawane.
That's a good fight.
That's a great fight, too. How are these 2 fights with Max Griffin, Chris Curtis not on the main card?
Well, I look at it, it's funny that the Junior Tafa fight is on the main card and those aren't.
Yeah.
But I look at what are they trying to do? They're trying to build the heavyweight division. They're trying to put some life into it. That's why you see Petrino against Austin Lane in there. They're trying to show that Petrino could be that heavyweight. And the one above that I know is Nate Landwehr, he's from Tennessee. So it makes sense that he's up there, but he's got his hands full with Morgan. Morgan's tough.
He does. Morgan's tough.
Yep.
Yep. I think it's gonna be a fun fight. Morgan's exciting. He's fun to watch. He's gonna put a lot of pressure.
Landwehr's crazy. I love him, man. Dude, he comes out to fight. This is one of those ones where you always talk about, where's the dog? Nate Landwehr's the dog.
Yeah, he is 100%. There's another big heavyweight fight on this with the Kennedy and Chikawu versus
Volker
Walker.
Yeah.
So, that should be a fun fight. That's a good big heavyweight fight to kind of start off the night. Get people sitting in their seats, get people with their first beer in their hand, and you're ready to go. Everyone's like, okay, I'm ready for this to happen. And that's around that time. The first fight, second fight, people usually show up late. Then you've got, that third fight and that heavyweight fight when they come out there. This fight is one of those fights I can see ending probably halfway through the second round, about a round and a half.
The real question for this, if Volker Walker is able to get, Kennedy on the ground and do damage, he's going to win the fight. If he can't get Kennedy down, Kennedy's going to light his candle.
Yeah, very, very true. Very true. That's going to wrap up our UFC talk for Nashville this week and Lewis versus Teixeira. I'm looking forward to this card. I know there's a lot of fights on here. People are like, well, it's okay. Guys, these are the kind of cards that end up having
really
great
good
fights. And you can tell when you take a look at this card, like I said, the Bonfim and Stephen Thompson fight, look for Bonfim maybe to shoot a takedown once, maybe twice. And if he can't get it, it's going to be a slugfest on the feet. Calvin Kattar Garcia, it's going to be on the feet pretty much, I think, the whole time. Landwehr versus Morgan, that's going to be just a slobber knocker, and you get into, Petrino versus Lane, Tafa versus Tokos. Both those fights could end quickly with knockouts. And then you got Max and Chris, could end quickly with knockout. There's some good highlight reel knockouts could potentially happen. Chidi and Chikawane and Jake Matthews. Jake's got to get this fight to the ground fast, or he's going to take some big shots. Chidi's still got some bang bang in him. Mm-hmm. So you guys like that, huh? You like that?
That was the whole thing.
Right, that's gonna wrap up our UFC talk. But before we go ahead and part ways, no, we're not gonna part ways yet. Let's see what else we got. Make sure you guys drink LMNT. Link is down below in the descriptions. Use that link, and that will give you guys a free bonus package with every purchase. Members, you guys push this product. You guys, I know I saw you guys last week talking about LMNT, how much you guys like it. I sent boxes off. You guys get a free box of LMNT for last month when I sent it off to 3 different people. I sent you guys over sample packages. So it was like a sample of every single flavor that they push out. It's a great product. Make sure you guys use it, especially right now. John, how hot is it where you're at? It is hot.
95 with about 95% humidity.
Yeah, I think we're about 70 or 85% humidity here in Texas at the top. We're in Dallas. Normally we get some nights where it's not like humid during the day, but for some reason, this last couple months has been really humid. We've had a lot of cloud cover. We had a thunder and lightning storm this morning when we were out. My son was out shooting yesterday. I had to call him in because there was lightning, going off, and you're out there.
He's got a metal stick in his hand.
Yeah, he's got a metal stick in his hand, and he's shooting on a metal goal. And I'm like, son, get inside. He's like, oh, I'm almost done. I'm like, no, get inside. Get inside. And so, but yeah, you guys go ahead and pick up some of that product. You got any super chats for us there, Dave?
Yep. Well, I've got a couple of member chats here. Andrew Nance just said LFG goats. Old Dave asks, member for 2 months. Big John, is it legal for a fighter to not get their hands wrapped before an MMA fight?
Absolutely. You're going to get some commissions that will sit there and say, well, you have to have a minimum wrap. There's nothing in the unified rules about a minimum wrap. There's always a maximum. The maximum that you can have as far as gauze, the maximum you can have as far as tape. But to sit there and tell a fighter that they have to wrap their hands is crazy. Mm-hmm. A fighter should be able to have that choice. Most fighters want their hands wrapped. You'll get some guys, and guys that are actually strikers, Joe Pyfer, he doesn't want his hands wrapped. You'll get some that the commission will say, well, you got to have a piece of tape that is put onto the back of your hand, and they sign the back of your hand on that tape, and then put a glove over it, and that's okay. It's it's not going to affect you in any way. The glove is covering it up. So yes, there are ones that sit there and say you've got to have that piece of tape, but it always gets to the point where you can basically go without the wrap.
That's not true. That tape could affect the way you perform. If that tape gets rolled up on the inside,
you just have to be that guy, don't you?
That tape gets rolled up inside, then it becomes the distraction. You're affecting my performance. That's
now the tape is rolling up.
John, this is what I'm talking about when they have elected officials that are on the board for the commissions that don't know shit about fighting, and they start doing dumb stuff like this.
I agree. I'm not going to. Okay. There, you're right. I'm going to sit there and say about the tape rolling up, bullshit.
Thank you.
But as far as you're absolutely right. You need people that actually are part of the sport, who actually know that is this going to make a difference? Is this going to give an unfair advantage? No, it's not.
Yeah, we've got to figure that out. I don't know why. We've got to find ways to stop getting these people in positions of power that have never fought or never even been. They haven't even been to an event. Yeah. That's the thing that scares me. Well, some of them have never even been doing that.
And this is the problem, Josh, is people look at that and they'll sit here and go, yeah, get rid of that person. It's not one person.
No.
You can sit there and you have the unified rules, which is great, and you have the ABC, and you've got a president of the ABC, and he says, hey, follow the unified rules. But each commission is a kingdom unto itself that they can make their own rules, and so they do.
Yeah, that's wild to me, man. You got anything else for us there, Dave?
Yep. Mix of Games super chat says, Big John and Josh, come back to the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. First round is on me. Love you guys in Bellator fights there. Hope the best for y'all and George.
Hey, thank you so much. That means a lot to me and Josh. I know we had a ball in Mohegan Sun. We actually got tired of being there certain times, but it's a great place. It was great for fights, and the fans there were always awesome.
I got to be honest, man. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better place to be locked into during COVID. I mean, it was sucked at times, obviously being locked in our rooms and having to order room service and having it drop to the door. It's like so, and then you look back, you're like, this is the dumbest thing we ever could have done. But it was awesome. The food was good. They made adjustments for us to make sure that they took care of us. I love the Mohegan Sun. I can't say a bad thing about them. You know, it was a great relationship that we had, and they did everything possible to make sure that we had access to as much as we possibly could. When they did start opening up, remember, we were allowed to go down into the cafeteria with all of the employees and have dinner there or lunch there, and it was unlimited. All we had to do was just walk in and just walk right through, because we just had a ban that said we were allowed to eat there. Fuck, I would eat there all the time, man. I mean, like some food was really good, some was but man, they're like, it was pretty awesome. I enjoyed it. And then once things started to open up, we were allowed to get beers and hang out. I mean, we got some stories for you.
Well, let's just be honest. We cheated a lot.
We did cheat. Of course we cheated. All you had to do back then was say that you were waiting for your food to get done being cooked by the restaurant, and we would just sit there and drink, and we never even ordered food. We just told them we were waiting for our food.
Waiting for my food.
And then as soon as our bosses walked away, we just basically.
And then I would get a text. Will you get your ass back to?
Yeah. Why are you still there? I'm getting reports you're still there 30 minutes later. Yeah, they're backed up in the kitchen. It's a lot of room service.
I'm sure they're busy, and I don't want to offend them.
It was great, man. We had such a great time. I remember just being like, when they finally started opening up and we were allowed to kind of hang out, we just kind of hung out at one restaurant. We all hung out there and had, it was called Ballo, I think, a little Italian restaurant. We'd all show up there after rehearsals, or we'd all show up there after the fights, grab some food, have some wine, and
bartenders there were fantastic.
Yeah, they were great. And then we would, for me, I mean, I was already packed up, and I caught the 3 a.m. flight, the 3 a.m. shuttle to the airport.
And I got the 3:30.
Yeah, and then I would just sleep in the car on the way to the airport, get on my flight, fall asleep, wake up back at home. It worked out perfectly. I landed. I didn't feel as fresh as I could have, but it was a great time, man. We had a blast back then. We love Mohegan Sun. We love the people and everyone that works there. It was a great experience for all of us. What else you got for us, Dave?
Last super chat here from Chris McConnell. That's one of my buddies from Scotland, by the way. He says, "Congratulations, Daddy Dave."
Oh, Daddy Dave.
There you go, baby.
We got to make a shirt that says Daddy Dave. Daddy Dave. Yeah. Hashtag and still. For a long time, brother. I can't believe you're starting over. That's crazy.
I'm pumped.
And then Benji's he's out of diapers, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So now you got that's the hardest part.
Drop one off and you pick one up.
I feel like that's a good way to do it, though, right?
It is a good way to do it. That is a good way to do it.
It's like a revolving door.
That's how I did it, man.
Really? You're not thinking like do it all at once and be done and over with?
God, no.
Well, no, I am. I'm like, can we just go back to back here, get one more out?
Oh, you want another?
I want a fourth, yeah, but
Tanya
sold you on getting off the bandwagon, eh?
Dave, you leave that poor woman alone.
I can be easily bribed, Dave. Just we just come over to the dark side, okay? And I can be convinced pretty easily to talk her into getting 4. Let's go. I'll send like random like emails and texts about
perfect
having a 4th and possible having 2 girls and how they have buddies, and I've got it all worked out. I got your back, bud.
But Lincoln decided halfway through the pregnancy he actually didn't want a girl, he wanted a boy. So maybe he'll be helping as well. Maybe he'll be helping.
All right, got Daddy's back. I love it.
Yeah.
Dave, is there anything else you want to chat about?
Yeah, I do have another one. Let me just find it here. Okay. So this was just a little note. Volk came out and said that after he won the title, it was at Yair Rodriguez he fought, and his family told him that he should have laid down the gloves in the cage at that moment, and they were kind of like pressing him as to why he didn't do that, because they wanted him to retire with the belt once after he won it last time. What do you guys think about that? Should he have? Was it time?
So going back to the Max situation though, too, is that his wife knows what's going on at home. And I think his and Volk's wife knows what's going on at home. So whether it's, look, my wife can see it too, like a couple little, like, memory slip ups, forgetting. I know people talk about, like, oh, you forgot where you put your keys. So stupid. Yeah, but It's true. It's like not just keys. It's like we're in the middle of a conversation. All of a sudden, you're just have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, what were we just talking about? Like, it's you're having that conversation and it's gone, and you're like, damn, we were just talking about what were we talking about? I don't know if that's the situation with Volk, but the wife knows, the kids know, the family knows, and she's also looking at the finances and going, hey, we're okay right now. We can do other things. And we don't let's not push the envelope.
Look, you're always gonna get two types of let's just talk about Volk with his wife. You're gonna get two types of women. Okay, you're gonna get the woman that doesn't really care about the man and is living there for the lifestyle and is living there for the fame and wants him to continue to go forever because they kind of live off of it. Mm-hmm. And then you're gonna get the one that, hey, they truly love this man. And they see exactly what Josh is talking about. They see him at home. They see the effect that the damage that he's taken. And let's be honest, Volk came out saying, hey, look, I had a whole lot more trouble with the concussion I suffered in the Islam fight than I did with the Poirier fight. Now, he's saying that, and you look at it, but it's true. There's fights that, that knockout, it has a true effect on your life and what you're able to remember and what you're able to do and the headaches and the things that occur and you trying to get past it and all these things that look at the limelight's great and to be the champ is great, but if you've been there and you've done it and now you get to that point where you get it again, I can understand why his family said, hey, enough, this is the time to get out of here, and they don't want to see you get hurt anymore. And they suffer every bit as much as the fighter suffers when things don't go right. It hurts, it's crushing to them because that's someone they love that is being hurt by somebody, and they know what's going to happen when that fight ends. They know exactly the position that fighter is going to be in, how they're going to be depressed, all these things that occur, and I tell you, how many times have you heard, Josh, you've said it with me. We talk to fighters all the time. Look, if you lose a fight, so what? Is your mom going to not love you anymore? Is your wife not going to love you? They are, and you've got to realize that, hey, there's more to life than just getting in a cage and fighting. That's not the most important things.
Yeah, there's a lot that comes along with the damage that you take, and it affects your family for long terms. Now, you brought up a good point when you started the conversation. There's two types of women in this sport. Unfortunately, a lot of the fighters choose the first one.
Oh, yes.
They marry for lust, they marry for looks, they marry for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. and I say that only based on the fact that I've seen a lot of my teammates or a lot of former teammates, that are basically all divorced now. And it's very unfortunate. As soon as the lifestyle stopped, as soon as the traveling stopped, as soon as the Vegas trip stopped, whatever it was, their marriage stopped.
So did the relationship.
Yeah, the relationship stopped. So it sucks. It's unfortunate, but picking the right person, the right partner is very important to the success throughout your life. There's a lot of NFL players that married the right person, but the men were self-destructive. They decided that they couldn't live their life based off of their income wasn't what it was before. Their life wasn't what it was before. And then they start just self-destructing. They start spending money on dumb things. They start just doing whatever it is. And the wife's there to try to pick them up afterwards. I know a lot of NFL guys that are retired, that their bodies are broken. They did a lot of drugs, or they did a lot of drinking, a lot of alcohol, and they're trying to recover right now. And they've had the same wife the whole time, who's just basically working to help pick them back up, basically to help financially support them. And it's sad because they've burned through, $80 million, $40 million, $30 million.
There's no way to burn through $80 million.
Oh, they burn through it, John.
No, you're not burning through it. You're just fucking blowing it.
Burning and blowing are the same. If I blow it and I burn it, it all goes away. You know what I mean? It really comes down to that they pick the right person that's actually helping them now. There's a lot of mental stuff that goes along with leaving the sport, and we're having this conversation because Dustin's on his last fight. Max talking about retirement. Volkanovski talking about retirement. There's a Justin Gaethje talking about retirement. You have a lot of the changing of the guard right now that we talked about. we're having a hard time leaving these guys behind because they're still able to do it at a high level. But it's also getting close to their time. They're 36, 37, 38 years old and fighting in a lighter weight class. It's hard to be competitive against the up-and-comers. Ilia Topuria is proving the younger generation is here to take over right now, and there's other fighters there. Patty Pimblett coming up, making a rise. The old guys, the stars will start to stand out right now. It's just that those older guys are now having a hard time, and they're realizing that it's time for them to step away because these younger guys are getting tougher. They're getting better. And in the meantime, you're staying where you're at and you're not progressing as much as you used to when you're younger, and you're not as fast or as explosive or your body's not as mobile and flexible as it used to be to get yourself out of these positions. So I'm glad that the guys that we've loved watch and will love to watch fight for all these years are seeing it and thinking about it ahead now. Volk, Max, Dustin, Justin, all 4 of those guys are some of our favorite fighters.
They're legends.
Ever do it. Yeah, yep. All 4 first ballot Hall of Famers. All 4, if they retired this year, they'll go in next year. That's exactly how it'll work. Yeah. So I'm glad that they're seeing it. I'm glad that they're understanding it, and they have the vision of how much longer we can do it. Max was saying he sees another year and a half, maybe 2. He wants to get through this contract and talk about maybe another one, but maybe not. We'll see where we're at in the end. So I like where all their heads are at. In terms of Volkanovski and what's going on, his wife sees what's going on at home. I think he understands the reality of it all. Chin can't take what he used to. Those 2 knockouts, it starts to change you at the age that he's at. So he's right there on that bubble right now. So we'll see who's coming up right now in the 145-pound division and where he may end up being. Because you got Volk. Good thing is that Movsar Evloev, like, he's not someone that's going to really try to knock you out. He'll try and take you down and grapple you. Maybe a little.
The guy he's fighting does.
Yeah. So, but you've also got Diego Lopez, you got Yair, you got Arnold Allen, you've got guys that are there, man. Lerone Murphy, you've got guys that are there. They can do some damage. Jean Silva. These are guys that can do some damage. So I could see it happening here in the next year, John. I could see it happening in the next year for Volk.
Yep, I agree.
What else you got for us there, Dave?
Next one I wanted to touch on was Gilbert Burns saying Charles Oliveira needs to take some time off after the knockout loss. So less so around retirement and more so just, what do you guys do with Charles to kind of get him back in the mix? Maybe not against someone who's gonna put that much power into a punch on him, but maybe like a grappling fight or something. But just anyway, wanted you guys' thoughts on Charles, where he's at, and kind of how we get him back in the mix here.
I look, and I know this is probably not what people want to hear, but for me, I feel like the fight to make is Charles and Max Holloway. After Max fights Dustin, they both have fought kind of similar around the same time. They both get some time off, and then you probably try to have them fight towards the end of the year or maybe even the beginning of next year. Let them have their rest, depending on how Max's fight goes. But if Max loses, you put him and Charles together so one of your stars gets a win. Okay. If Max wins, I think you maybe hold Max and get that automatic rematch. Get that rematch in there, depending on what goes on with Sarukian and Justin and who they're battling right now to see who gets that fight. But with Charles, I think the fight to make is really just the Max fight. And then if I work my way down even further, do you want to put him against somebody else in that mix? Like, do you put him against Dariush again? I don't think you do.
I'm being honest. You take a look. If there's one fight, first off, Charles does need to take time. Again,
absolutely.
Look, he got knocked out, and he got knocked out. He needs to take the time, let his body heal, let his brain heal back up. It's so important. Second off, if you're going to take a look at a fight that does make sense, I agree with you. I think that the one against him and Max, be it either way, Max wins or Max loses. The Max Holloway fight, look, a lot of people don't remember. They actually fought once, but there was nothing that happened. Yeah. He hurt his collarbone, shoulder, in the fight, and he basically, had to give up the fight before anything happened. So that, they do have a, fight from the past, but it never really took place. So that'd be a great fight you'd want to see. That was at 145. This one's going to be at 155. Great. It's a perfect matchup. It helps establish, Max where he's at in division. He already beat, the guy at the time that was number one in Justin. Can he beat the guy that, is right there, ahead of Justin and Charles Oliveira? Puts him right in position to get that shot again at Ilya. Or it gives, Charles Oliveira the ability to fight someone that has a win against him, even though he got hurt. And that's how it happened. But it's something he'd like to get back, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that's a good matchup. It really is. Like I said, if Max wins, though, it's going to be, I think it'd be hard for the UFC to say, like, hey, how do we have him fight Charles?
That's a tough one.
When we can have him fight Ilya at 155, and there's a storyline already it can build on. Yeah. That's kind of where I see that going on. Now it's just a matter of what you do with Sarukian or Justin. Justin saying I was promised a fight, a title shot, and Armand, the whole mix up of that, and it just not mix up, but the mess up, I should say. Yeah. So there's a lot to be had there. The 155-pound weight class is making a wave right now. It's making a splash right now, and 145 is going to have to sort itself out. So for years we had Max, we had Volk, we had Brian Ortega, we had those guys in the mix, and now we don't have them. Brian's there. He's decided to stay. Which is good. I think now that Volk is kind of towards the end, Max is gone, Ilya's gone. I mean, Brian Ortega has a very good chance of winning that title. He's got a great chance, I think, of making a good run at 145 pounds. If I'm looking at that, because you look, Evloev, I think it's a bad matchup for. I think it's a good matchup. Sorry for Brian Ortega.
That's not a bad matchup.
That's not a bad matchup for Brian Ortega. I was trying to say he was a bad.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. There's guys in there though. Diego and Brian running it again. And having that fight again. You've got you got Max going up. He's gone. You got Yair. You've got Lerone Murphy. You got. I want to see the Aljamain Sterling Brian Ortega fight.
That's a good one.
That's a good fight. I want to see that fight. So we'll see what happens. But look, I think there's the featherweight division needs to sort itself out, and the lightweight division is now stacked in. Like they've got two big 145 pounders that have making a wave. You got Max, you got Ilya, and I thought Brian was coming up too, and that would have been even more fun. But you got guys as well, and those guys are in the long lasting guys. The pillars of that weight class are now moving on. They're going to retire, and you got Justin, you got Dustin, and those guys are moving on. So there's a lot to be said. In Islam going up to 70, so that weight class is going to get spicy again. Looking forward to it. I mean, it's really what's been holding up the sport.
When you're adding a top flight athlete to a weight class, it shakes everything up because there's all these matchups that can all of a sudden occur.
Yeah,
and you get a couple in there, it's perfect.
I agree. Dave, is there anything else for us, buddy?
Yeah, did you guys touch on Tony Ferguson this past weekend? Announcing he's got a fight.
Oh, we did not.
I heard he's got a boxing match.
Yeah. So Tony came out on X, he didn't come out on X, but the reports on X. I'm not retired. I'm fighting in August. He said he's not looking to hang up his gloves. He's looking to put on boxing gloves on August 30th. My mind and body is A+. I'm sharp and I'm getting sharper. I can do more pull-ups, more push-ups. He told Red Corner MMA in Thailand, where he came to work as a host at Hype Fighting Show, and fuck it. He's 41. Not fighting in GFL, which isn't anymore, obviously, and then coming off the UFC exit.
Did you just mistake fuck it for Phuket?
Yes, he did.
Oh, did it? I like to say fuck it.
It's the Scottish way of doing it.
Exactly.
The education from Scotland is showing through.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Oh man, at least you know what the difference is between 2, 2, and 2. At least you know. At least you know. He's corrected me a bunch of times.
Yeah, I actually do.
Look, whatever Tony wants to do. It's kind of beyond, So
first off, Tony, here's the problem. I'm going to say it straight out. I love Tony, but he's not known as a boxer. If there's the weakest part of his game, it's boxing. Just going to be honest. That's not where his strength is. Elbows inside, he can't use. Okay, so it's all with his hands. Best of luck to him. I hope he does well. It's just not something that I want to see.
John, if you take a look at his face, he looks like he's aged. I don't know. And I'm not trying to say I look like a spring chicken, but I'm simply saying he looks like he's aged in the last 3 years, 10 years.
Yeah, why?
I couldn't tell you why.
There's all kinds of things. The reasons why. Let's start to list them. First off, he's taken a lot of damage in his last, 10 fights. He's taken an incredible amount of damage in those fights overall. Most of them, he's taken some really big shots. Okay. Second off, the stress of life, the stress of what is he doing, the stress of when you're on that losing streak, and he's been on a huge losing streak, the stress that is self-imposed, but it's there. And all that stuff, it wears on you and stuff. And he is getting older. Look at none of us get out of this alive. And you just take a look and you go, what condition are you going to be in for the rest of those years that you're here? That's the most important thing, because you don't want to be where you're not someone that can, take care of yourself, handle things, and there comes a point the fighting needs to stop. Tony could be an incredible trainer. He's got that mentality. He's got the ability to push people. He's actually inspirational when he's, as far as, training to get in shape and things like that, man. He's a motivator. He just needs to go to that, do that, be great at it. And he could be. Yeah.
I mean, I saw him post something the other day too. He posted something about like basically calling out Khabib, when are we gonna do it, fathead. And I'm like, bro, it's like the furthest thing from anyone's mind.
Yeah, no one cares.
No, it's so strange to me though. Like, why keep it going? So it is what it is. All right. Well, hey man, I mean, I wish him nothing but the success, and I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens if he does box in August. Is he working on it? What's going on? So, hey guys, go to WayneMerch.com, pick up some of our apparel, and I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I saw we jumped up a lot in the numbers in terms of, towards the end. We will try, we will end up being, I think next week it'll be same time though, not this time, but it'll be Tuesday night, 9:30 Eastern time. We'll keep it the same time, back to where it was. Congratulations to Podcast Dave on the new baby girl addition to the family.
Absolutely.
And make sure you guys use that link down below in the descriptions. Drink Element. Stay hydrated during these hot times during the summer. Pick up your product. They have this one in here is the watermelon, which is actually one of my favorites. John doesn't like you don't like the watermelon as much, huh?
The better one.
Yeah, he likes the cherry lime.
Cherry lime and grapefruit. Very good.
Grapefruit is good. I like it. You got to make sure you have them cold though. They're very good. We're gonna do a lemon salt booth with the kids. We're going to set that up here in our community, and
we just did that on the 4th of July. We did a whole lemon salt thing, put extra packets so people can have them and stuff like that.
Nice.
Very good.
Did you tell them to use the link down below in the descriptions?
I did not.
All right, guys. I want to thank you guys so much for joining us, and John, take us away, bud.
Hey, for everyone out there tuning in, thank you for seeing us in the daytime. And to Podcast Dave and his beautiful wife, Tanya, congratulations again, brother. You deserve that. And you got a gorgeous little girl. And thank God she looks like her mama. All right. We will see you.